Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to Talks on Tuesdays. So glad you're joining us today. I see Louis Teresa's chair. I imagine she'll be back shortly.
Mhm.
And for those of you on YouTube, welcome. And if you'd like to join us live, send us an email to talksontuesdays333 at gmail.com and we'll send you the link. Otherwise, like us, leave comments, subscribe, and we're happy that you're here. So today, Mary and I are hosting, and unfortunately, Julie and Chelsea are not able to join us, but we are still here. They're here with us in spirit, and we're so glad that all our friends have joined us in person who are able to make it. We thought we would talk about focus and what we want to focus on because there's so much going on outside of this window today that can be construed as distressing, crazy, um, disturbing, and yet there's also a lot of joy and love, and the sun is shining, and it's a beautiful sunny day here, as you can see by the little sun that's coming through the blinds in my window. And so I think it's important that we talk about how can we move forward and remember to focus on what brings us joy, what brings us love, and how can we morph away from the um, distressing thoughts that sometimes weigh us down. And yet, it's also still important to maintain balance. And, I realize that we don't want to walk around with a Pollyanna attitude, oh, everything's always so great, because sometimes it's not. In our reality, this finite reality that we're all navigating through, sometimes there are challenges. And so, how do we find and maintain that balance of staying positive and yet maintaining the balance and maybe the attitude of uh like slight separation or I can't quite think of the right word for it, but I think a lot of you know what I'm talking about. So let's take it away. Who would like to get started? Anyone have any thoughts on this? Oh, it's nice and quiet. Okay. Louis Therese, go ahead. Gotta unmute and then join us. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Hmm. Yes.
Okay, I'll open. But it's such a difficult situation that you are trying to put so neatly in a little box because what you have to do is every time is all your experiences and everything that you fall on back to and where you're going and things like that. So focus for me, and especially when I had the difficulty, is to imagine me a director of a movie. And I'm sitting there in the chair and I say, okay, now you two go, play it out. Don't get involved. It is just a scene, and don't get emotional. Just go and think what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. That little act of me sitting in the director's chair and tell the other two to go for it, that have saved me and helped me a lot.
Hmm.
That's great. I think that's a wonderful idea. And what I hear is remembering to be able to step back and observe. And I like that. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks. That's wonderful.
Hmm.
Yeah. Renee, go ahead. Unmute.
All righty.
Now we're having trouble hearing you again, Renee. You're kind of wavering for some reason. Hmm.
It's a distortion in the sound. If you can put it in the chat, I can read it for us.
Yeah, that might be a
I
good idea.
know it's a hassle.
Okay. Anybody else have thoughts on how you can avoid going down the rabbit hole? Go ahead, Durin.
Yeah, the rabbit hole. The rabbit hole is actually where I enjoy being because the literal rabbit hole, with the fuzzy rabbits in their winter coats. So yeah, focus, what to focus on. Well, boy, there's a lot of tangents. So I'm going to take two of them. One would be I am focusing on what is instinctual. I'm focusing on the wilderness. I am focusing on wildlife. I'm focusing on just heart-centeredness. And so that's my airy fairy side that has a head in the sand, I guess. um, the other direction and what I have been just accepting, and I'm noticing myself, and I do need to focus on just accepting, and specifically accepting that, and I think I know I've said this a few times, but to me it takes me back to story, and kind of like what Louis Therese was alluding to. You know, there's a lot of stories going on out there. Everyone's got an experience. I have come to the acceptance that for every person that believes that in one thing that's true, there's going to be plenty of people that think it's a lie, and there's nothing we can do about it. And maybe this speaks to whatever conspiracy theories, which are just stories. But I have surrendered to the fact that whatever the pile of evidence that I'm looking at, and I'm going, well, that seems true in terms of story. I know other people are maybe not looking at the evidence, or they would look at that evidence and say, all of that's crap, and I believe this. And I think that's intensifying on our planet. And I'm just wondering if maybe we might have a little shift, which would mean that there are more people that kind of realize this. And so we can stop forcing other people to believe what we think is true, because that's hard. It's a brick wall. I'm going to leave it at that.
Well, I like that. And I too have been learning to accept and just kind of let go and realize, you know, I have a certain amount of control. And the other day I heard, in fact, yesterday, Dr. Martin Luther King Day, I listened to a very profound message. I say was from him. It was channeled by a woman who channels, and she channeled him, and the message was basically kind of what you were saying, Doreen, is that we have to accept, we have to stop, we have to find the love and let go of this hate of other people who believe differently than we do. And I've been thinking about that since yesterday and this morning, and I don't believe that means I don't have to take action. I can still be active in a respectful and a respectful way where it doesn't suck me in totally, and realize that, like you said, other people have different perspectives. There's not a whole lot we can do about that because they're not us in this finite being, even though we are all in our infinite being connected. And so I think of it as actually almost kind of like this giant circle, and some people and their thoughts are the other side of the circle, and we have to have it helps us to be complete or something. I'm not sure quite how that works, but that's kind of what I envision in my mind anyway. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Barbara, what that makes me think of is, and sorry, Mary, I'm just going to say this one
Okay.
thing, Barbara. I return to one of my mantras that I love, which is I just thank people for their experience. And I go into deep gratitude for anybody who comes and has an experience. You had an experience, the universe expanded. Thank you, down to the deepest parts of my DNA. Thank you. So anyway, Mary, take it away.
I'm just going to share what Renee wrote in the chat. I take one small next step. What action can I take? For example, sit at the piano, do something creative to distract myself from the constant dramas that are being bombarded at me on the media. Yeah, Yeah, there's so many things we can do that are not fearful or angry or aggressive. And I really believe that the energy of those actions can help soothe whatever else is going on. Um, and all of this is reminding me of A Course in Miracles, where they define a miracle as a shift in perception. Um, and one of the things that we learn to do there is when something arrives that is upsetting or scary, I could see love instead of this. And what is the loving action? Um, what is the creative action, as Renee is suggesting? And focus, our topic, requires attention. And I think a lot of times it comes down to attention, awareness, and that realization that we are not stuck in the way we respond to things that seem horrific. As you say, it's a movie.
Yeah, I like that, Mary. And thank you, Renee, and Durin too. I like all these comments. And I heard a speaker one time say something like, what you feed grows. It's another way of saying the law of attraction.
Mm-hmm.
And, what you
Mhm.
put your attention to, that's where it's going to end up and blossom. And
Mhm.
yeah, like you, Renee, how you'll find something that brings you peace. I find when I'm in a situation of frustration or fear or angst, I just go within and just know I am the light. I am light. And
Yeah.
that kind of takes me back to that center, that place of balance,
Mhm.
and then releases a lot of that negativity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm looking at Louis Therese and seeing her pets, and they are such a good example of how to live in the world. I mean, you don't see, well, occasionally you'll see a cat carrying a grudge, but dogs tend not to do that. Cats, it's just an act. Um, we don't see, despite the game, we don't really see angry birds.
Right. Well, unless they're chasing a hawk who's trying to grab one of their babies.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
Hey, see, that's a different way, mother bird.
yeah, yeah, they live so much in the now. And I think that's part of it is that we as humans have a tendency to project and remember and, get
Yeah.
our minds all over the place and create these stories. And many animals are just so in the now. It's like, okay, I want to sleep or eat.
Hmm.
And, give me a pet, I'll be
Yeah.
happy.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't see them with the desire to build a great civilization with a big statue of them in the middle of it.
Well, except for maybe cats.
Well, yeah, but that's kind of a given.
Right.
That's the burden they were born with. They'll have to overcome that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm reminded of something that I heard just a few days ago. The concept of I'm immovable and yet I'm never stuck. And for me, that's flexible and strong. It maintains balance, which we're talking about. It's that place of I can receive on behalf of others, and I can be just me, my little universe that I got going on. Um, yeah, that was I'm immovable, but I'm never stuck. It's like,
Mhm.
oh yeah, I think I've heard that in other ways. People have been saying that for a long time, but just the way that was said, just I liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Initially I would think I'm immovable was kind of like, rigid. But the way you
Mm-hmm.
described it, you're right. I almost like I am being,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
It is. It's just beingness, and it's just I am the truth. and I'm never stuck in a lie or something like that. But again, that goes back to whatever's true, whatever's lies is apparently debatable on this planet. I've
Right.
just accepted.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's I think we develop certain mantras to help us deal with the life we're being presented with. And um, one of them is, I don't have to believe what I'm seeing. I can believe there's another way to see this.
Yes.
Yeah. I sent my brother a card once. He had had some dire occasion in his life, and the card showed this lady with a big grin on her face, and she says, "It can't be that bad, can it? Look at me. I'm smiling, and I don't even know what's going on."
Sometimes not going on, knowing what's going on is the best way to navigate this
Yeah,
world.
it's like what that's the reason people become hermits and anchorites, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yes, Gino.
Go ahead, Gina.
Hi, everyone. There's been many illusions today on the state of the world and how people are and their beliefs and all this stuff. And, I'm part of all that. I see it too. And I feel that, the older I get, the more wise I am in terms of how to deal with it. Even in groups and things that I've been involved in for years, I'm seeing the decay in behavior and integrity because there's a lot of imbalance and angst and anger and all that going on. Um, just as an example, and there's a group that I belong to, and they were doing demonstrations, and they were being very overtly unkind to people entering a particular stadium that were going to an event that the activists did not like. And their form of activism was to me embarrassing and not constructive at all. So in we have a signal group, and I would put in there, I think that we should go back to doing nonviolent communication, both in word and action, and that caused a storm where everybody was upset. Everybody, they would say like, "Well, we all do things differently," blah blah blah. And so today in that signal group, I put this quote by Martin Luther King, who is one of my biggest influences in life. And he said, in the nonviolent army, there is room for everyone who wants to join up. There is no color distinction, there is no examination, no pledge, except that as a soldier in the armies of violence is expected to inspect his carbine and keep it clean, nonviolent soldiers are called upon to examine their greatest weapons, their heart, their conscience, their courage, and sense of justice. And not one person reacted to that comment. And I was already starting to feel, maybe I don't belong in this group like I used to. I mean, I could really get them for a long time, but after all this time, they've reverted to going backwards in their activism. So what that brings up for me is, well, not just that, but for this conversation, is that in my remaining years, which are not that long because it's just going too damn fast. And I want to make the rest of my life uh, peaceful, but also something that makes a difference as much as I possibly can, but perhaps in another way. I might do some actual activism hands-on, but at the same time, I want my beingness, my authenticity to show and reach out to people everywhere I go, whenever I can muster it, which is more and more often, that, to spread love and peace on the planet, basically. It sounds like a grand, silly notion, but I don't see it that way at all. I've also discovered a group that effectively is doing that. And I can be talking with people who are 100% different than me in every way, every view, and everything else. Yet I see who they really are. They are not those beliefs. They are love. They are a lot of beautiful things, a lot. And, we get along just great. They love me, blah, blah, blah. And I feel so good about that. Even though they're doing these things that I feel are destructive, you have to also tune in to who they really are. There's another side to them, right? So, like I've seen before, there was this one black guy years ago that went to the KKK and made
Mm.
friends with the leader.
I remember that.
Okay? Yeah. So, come on, that's a huge example right there. We can do this. We don't have to go to the KKK meetings, but there's a lot we can do. So that's kind of my task. And the last thing on all this is, and you probably heard this quote before, is to focus on what you want, not on what you don't want. The more you focus on what you don't want, the more it comes. Yay, yay, let me have all this. It's terrible. I don't want that. Anyway, thanks for listening to my share. And Doreen, I had, quite a thought factory there. I just wanted to let you know.
Yeah.
Thank
And that was beautiful, Gino. Yeah, your thought
you.
factory was spitting out hearts all over the place and light bulbs and just all sorts of good things. So yeah.
You're reminding me of that St. Francis prayer. Make me a channel of your peace.
Mm,
Where there's hatred, let me sow love. Where there's injury, pardon. Where there's doubt, faith. We can do it.
that's beautiful, Mary. Thank you. I love it.
And it's nice that there are so many of these inspiring messages that people have shared, like what you shared, Gino,
Mm.
from Dr. King. And it's interesting how when you're beginning to feel that maybe it's time to step away from this one particular group, you mentioned that you found another group that was more aligned with your thoughts. And, as one door closes, another opens. It's like, again, that is what you're focusing on and you're attracting it to you.
Mhm.
So I like that. Louis Trace, I saw you moving your hand. Did you want to share anything? Go ahead, unmute. No, you're moving your lips, but we can't hear you. There you go.
No, she's back muted again.
No, you just muted again. Only click it once. And I can't unmute you. Uh,
While we're waiting, I'm going to read Renee's share from the chat.
okay.
I cannot imagine the anxiety, grief, overwhelm of the people who have lost their homes in California are experiencing. Heartbreaking to watch, but how much can I watch? Even those who have lost their homes are building a community to reach beyond the distress of living through the devastation. Look beyond the individual. Empathy is seeing through more than one eye, spelled capital I. Sam Keen is that quote. Thanks, Renee.
Yeah. Very nice, Renee. Thank you. Yeah. Okay,
So
Louis
Louis
Trace, you want to
Trees,
try again? Yeah, you're muted again. Just click it once. You done? You don't want to talk?
okay.
Okay. Well, at least you have a smile. Oh, we have a few more minutes, and I'm so grateful that we all came today. And I was going to start us off with a centering exercise and just kind of jumped into it and forgot, but maybe we could take a few minutes now and just sit and get centered and find your heart space or wherever you go to find your peace, to find your love. Well, let's just do that for a few minutes. I find for me when I do this, it's impossible to feel fearful. It brings me to a place of calm, peace. And may we all step off into the rest of our Tuesday with a sense of calmness, joy, connectedness to each other, and that knowing that all shall be well.
All shall be well.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Bye bye.